in KCDW, if I want to price by material and labor, I just go to price. I've already made a copy of my KCDW pricing and I've called it Oak. I can click on my pricing and click edit. And under the general setup, general setup right here, you'll notice the price setup where it says material name, we've got it Oak, but then you see where it says do you price by material and labor or by the foot cost. Well, if you want to do by material and labor, we want to make sure that's checked on 1. Then, when I go to cabinets and cabinet setup, I'm going to get a series of questions that ask me my average per hour labor charge. Now, this is in footage, okay, $10 a square foot. Now, what happens is, now we break down all the different pieces of the cabinet where square footage charge for cabinet top, for the bottom, your sides, finished sides, unfinished sides, all this information. Now, when you first set this up, to be successful, you really need to zero things out so you understand what's going on. So I go through, and I can just highlight pretty much everything I have here and just zero it out. It's just going to make it a lot easier for you to understand what's going on if we just zero it out. That way, if we just look at what we're charging for the top, our waste factors here, let's zero them out. That just means how much you're willing to accept as far as a waste factor when it calculates the overall width and length of the piece. Now, once I've zeroed everything out here, I'm even going to zero out the labor charge. I also want to go to the different sections. For example, under door setup, I want to make sure that do you want to include door costs with your cabinet? I want to say no, because I don't want it to be mixed in with a cabinet that just causes more confusion. Go to General, go to Drawer Setup. We want to make sure that it's not including your drawer box cost with your cabinet, which all this is set to no. And at this point, Molding Setup, do you want to include molding on your price sheet? We've got that to yes, that's fine. Well, let's go over here, let's close. Now, if I were to go and close this, I want to put up a cabinet that is a specific size so we understand what the part size should be when it calculates things. So I'm going to go to Top Cabinet, and I'm just going to make this 12 inches wide, it's 12 inches deep, and I'm going to make it 12 inches high. So 1 square foot. Now, the top would be 1 square foot here. Now, if we go to Price, and click on the Oak, and let's just calculate and see what the price is for that unit at this point. Now notice it's coming up $102. And we have to ask ourselves, why is it coming up $102? Once again, it's good to ask these things and it's good to understand why. So let's close this, click back on here, click Edit. Now under Cabinets, we know that under Cabinet Setup, we have $2 for the top. So that 2 probably for the 102 probably has something to do with that. But if we go to Cabinets here, you'll notice there's a section for wall cabinets. Let's click on it. Now notice there's a minimum cost here of $100. That's going to be factored in at all times. So, like I was telling you before, we want to zero as much of this out as we can. Now, labor amount per square foot in an hour, that's a percentage. That's a multiplier times 2. So in other words, if we were to just keep this 1, what happens is it would multiply whatever we have by 1. Now, if we decide that a specific cabinet is twice as expensive as far as labor cost, we could put a factor in. And that would be, for example, maybe on this wall corner 45. Let's just zero out the minimum cost. Notice right down here it says 2. What that would do is take the cost of that unit, whatever we're calculating for all the pieces, in this section over here under Cabinet Setup, no matter what we calculate here, it will end up multiplying it by a factor of 2 because we have that in here as 2. That's because it would be a tougher cabinet to build. The labor is more labor intensive. So for argument's sake, let's just set everything to either 0 here. In this case, labor amount per square foot, I'm going to put 1. Now when I go to run this now, let's see what we come up with. Now, it's probably going to make a little more sense because now it comes up $2. So what it's saying at this point, under Cabinets, Cabinet Setup, all it's saying is we're only charging for this top right now, and we're charging $2 a square foot. That's why it's coming out 2. Well, once again, we want to come in here and set how much we charge for our bottom material, our finished sides, and this is a square footage charge. Now, the average per hour labor charge, well, once again, let's go with 10, just so you see what's going on there, and this is going to take $10 times the square footage. That's a factor for labor, and it's really the only way that it can be done, because that's a known amount, the actual footage. So we got 10 here. Go to File, we close, go to Oak, calculate, and this should come up $12 now. And you notice it came up 12. So all it does is take the 1 square foot, multiply that by the $10, which is our labor cost, plus $2 for our material, which is our top. Now, I've oversimplified this so you can see what's going on, but you're going to find this is the way to do it. You want to go through and set these pieces up a little bit at a time. Forget about your waste factor. You can always put that in at the end. But come through and set your numbers in here to what you want, so you know that your board footage is pricing out correctly first. Like I said, set this to 0, then factor in your labor afterwards. Once you start doing this in little bits and pieces, and you put up a few cabinets here and there, you're going to find that by understanding what you do, you're going to successfully set this up. And remember, all these other different units are in these different sections, such as the base cabinets. So if you wonder why something's calculating a certain way, well, it's most likely going to come down to this drawer section here, for example, base, drawer below, drawer bases. There's a separate place to set the cost. So just be aware of what's able to change so that you can set it up correctly.